Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly and maintenance video for you on this guy. This is a revised version of the Hogue Deka. So let's go on ahead and take this little guy apart and deck around a little bit with the insides of it. Okay, that was bad. Beautiful. Nice big pivot on there. It has big pivot energy. And I've got a little mat here that has a series of cutouts so I can put the screws where they came off of the knife. One of the big benefits of this particular version, this revision, is that they removed a bunch of hardware from it. The original had just screws freaking everywhere, and this does not. So, yeah, there's that. One other thing that's worth noting, by the way, before you go too much further into this, is that you could actually do this a different way. I will show you the other way later on, but, you know, the way I'm doing this full disassembly is not necessary. Instead, we could have left this scale on there, just popped the pivot through and moved on. But I did want to get inside here and just see how exactly this knife is made, how exactly it is constructed. What we see here is that we have a relatively small chunk of liner here, that this part of the knife is covered with metal. The rest of it is just what appears to be G10 or ground up peacocks or something along those lines, right? With nice little metal inserts here into the G10 for the pocket clip. But yeah, so it's a partial liner construction, basically. This is relatively thick G10, so I'm not particularly concerned about it. It doesn't bend particularly. I'm not able to, you know, crank it even in places where it is thinned out. And aside from that, the Omega-looking springs here are look to be about fine, and we can see how the knife works. These little springs push that forward as you move on. Nice, pretty easy construction. So that explains what we got going on there. I am going to clean out this pivot because there appears to be a little bit of extra thread locking that didn't need to be quite so intense. Somebody was exceptionally exuberant with your thread locker here. So, clear that out. Beautiful. All right, now what I'm going to go on ahead and do is put this liner back on, and then I'll show you how you would actually want to disassemble and maintain the knife. It's not particularly hard to go further and to kind of break everything down, the axis lock style stuff further, but at the same time, it's just easier to do it the other way. And there's not really a lot of reason to disassemble the full axis lock area, able lock area in the middle there. So let's go on ahead and put that there. Come on, get in there. And tighten that up. And again, put a little thread locker here. And if you're curious, by the way, about this or any of the other tools I'm using, go ahead and check out nickshabazz.com/tools. You will see a full listing of every damn thing that I use, including the non-brilliant parts of me that throw screws across the table. Actually, that's not on there. That's not available for purchase. Okay, so now let's say that I were to be just sitting there like, oh, my knife got coated in maple syrup because I live in the Great North and I decided I'm going to go harvest I don't know, maple bush. Yeah, I know it's from the maple tree. Don't at me, Canadians. DNI. Anyways, what I'm going to go on ahead and do is show you how I would take this knife apart on a daily basis if I were to, well, not daily, obviously, but if I were to get this guy in my collection. So step one is going to be to take out the pivot screw as I have right there. I'm not going to reinstall it just to show you how to take it out, but you do that. Step two is to take an object of some variety. This is a watch spring bar tool, but other objects work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch right here so that way the blade kind of stays in control. And then I'm going to try and push, if I can, the pivot out. And what we're going to do is remove the blade. So the pivot is now out. Blade is now out. Washer is, one of them is now out. The other one is inside there. Other one is now out. And this handle remains one single chunk, right? We can effectively disassemble this like an integral pocket knife, like where there's just one single chunk of metal here. And so what I'll do is I'll just get in here, I'll clean this bit off here, I'm cleaning all of the surfaces of the blade here, as well as I'm going to use a little rubbing alcohol on the inside of this here. But yeah, clean that off. I'm going to go ahead and clean this off. This upgrade here, was this necessary? Not strictly speaking. It is more attractive, certainly. And it might have been useful for them from an engineering perspective to make the change. But at the same time, didn't need to happen. But I am kind of glad to see it happening, right? When companies are just randomly upgrading their stuff because they can do it better, that's a good sign about that company, right? People who care about excellence for excellence sake well, that's good. And then I will clean off the pivot here, because that is another area that can get some gunk built up on it. And indeed, we see we have some gunk on there. So let's degunk this. Beautiful. All right. Now, how do we put this guy back together? Step one, I'm going to go ahead and take some lubrication and put it onto the blade. Just a little bit of lube. The goal here is to basically use this lubrication to stick these washers to the blade. And I'm just checking to see if there's a particular pattern of wear on these guys. This is factory fresh, so there isn't really, but I'll try and stick to areas where I see there's already wear on the washers here. I kind of feel like I want a little more lubrication, so I'm just going to put it through there. And there we go. All right, so next step is going to be, I'm going to grab this handle here, and I'm going to pull back on the lock. As I do that, I'm going to try and slip the blade in through here. My goal here is actually quite simple. It's just to get something through the pivot as well as through the two washers. I want all my washers and whatnot to be roughly aligned up here. So I can do something like this. Then my next step is going to be to grab my pivot here. And in fact, I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication onto my pivot itself, which is not exactly a phrase that is easily monetized. Let's go ahead and do that with one hand. Okay, beautiful. And I'm going to make sure, because my pivot has a D shape to it, I'm going to go ahead and align it so the D shape is at the bottom, because that's where the little cutout for the D shape is. And I'm going to place my index finger against it and try and kind of push it through. Now, here's where the fun part comes. I need to make sure that all of the washers, as well as the blade, are aligned. I am unable, actually, to get the blade to be fully aligned with this back there. So I'm actually going to use a little trick that was shared with me first by Notorious EDC. He's another dude in the knife scene. Solid fella. Let's see here. Grab my little Leatherman here. And snippity snip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this Q-tip right through there. That's going to hold the lock back. Now what I can do is just kind of, this way I can move the blade wherever I need it to move. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pressing with my index finger this direction, the inside here. And my goal is going to be to manipulate the washers into the position that allows them to, basically allows the pivot to slide through them. And I can do this one at a time, right? There's no urgency to do them all together, although sometimes it does happen. And so I'm just kind of pressing. Oh, I think I just got in. No, I didn't. But my goal here is just to kind of press the washers into a position where, okay. So right there, what just happened? You heard a click. That click was it going through the first washer. Then you heard a second click shortly after, which was it going through the blade. And now I'm going to press a little harder here, maybe with a little bit of extra alignment. You're going to hear a third click shortly. There's your third click. And that is the pivot being all the way through all three parts. At this point in time, I can remove this little guy. And my pivot is all the way through. It's a nice trick, Notorious. I can't believe I didn't think about that, but it really works well. Now what I'm going to do is put a little bit of extra thread locker on here. Not extra. I'm going to put the proper amount on there. I'm going to tighten this down. Now what I'm going to do is close the knife. And I'm also going to take a little bit of my knife pivot lube here, and I'm going to put it along the back of the blade here. And that will just lubricate the movement of the axis lock, basically. Oh, God, that's pretty. Okay, oh, God, that's loose. That's why it's sliding so well. All right, let's tighten it down a little bit. Now I'm checking blade play. There is blade play. When I grab here and do this, I'm feeling wiggle back and forth on this dimension. So let me tighten this up a little bit more. Okay. No play. Easy action. Centering is right where I want it. We're done here. Easy peasy. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me here for this video. Thank you very much to the poor peacock who sacrificed his life so this scale pattern could be made. And most of all, I hope this was interesting, educational for you, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.